Welcome to Torpid Casts. This video is part 2 of a mini-series between Choko and Ricemuncher. Part 1 I shall link below. It was a game between the same players, and Choko was playing the Warp Spider Exarch and Ricemuncher was playing the Force Commander. And you can see the outcome of that if you go watch that video. I'll reference some of the concepts mentioned in that video in this one as well. However, without further ado, let us get into this game. So, what's changed here then? Ricemuncher has swapped to the Tech Marine from the Force Commander. Now, I did say in the prior video that I do believe that the Tech Marine is actually inferior in this matchup against the Warp Spider Exarch, because in the blob versus blob fights, I feel like the TM is not as good at supporting the ASM and attacks as the Force Commander and Apothecary are. However, the map's also changed. This map I think is actually better for Eldar than Silver Frontier. The main reason for that is a much more defensible gen farm. These gen farms are way further from the enemy base than on Silver Frontier. Furthermore, if you place your shuriken here, you can cover pretty much all angles towards the generator farm, and here, likewise. This makes it easier for the Eldar to defend their farm, which is a massive advantage because the Space Marine is so dependent on being able to gem bash in order to stay relatively even on the tech race. Now, one key feature of Greentooth Gorge, as we're seeing already, is the absolute abundancy of garrisons on the map. This is something that the Warp Spider Exarch loves. He's a ranged hero. Ranged heroes love garrisons. To this extent, it will help the Tech Marine. Perhaps this was part of the reason he decided to try out the Tech Marine on this map. I don't know. But because the Warp Spider can teleport, he has an extra benefit for the garrisons. He can always, if he sees an enemy squad running into the garrison, he can just teleport in front of them, get into the garrison and deny them it. Really powerful. So all in all, I do not foresee Rice doing very well. But he surprised us before. Maybe he can do it again. So nothing too unusual in terms of the build orders. The power is coming up super late for Choko. I'm noticing this happens quite a lot. Typically when I play Eldar, I will rush the natural power farm, and then I will drop down 2 or 3 gens instantly. He seems to delay his gens a lot. But as you can see, it's not really helping him too much. It's not really getting out the shurikens much quicker. I don't know, I find it an interesting play. I don't really agree with it. I think as Eldar you really need to prioritise that early generator drop so that you can get your power out as soon as possible. Still, the Warp Spider Exarch is being an absolute pain in the ass, so while the Tax and the Scouts are dedicated to trying to bash this down, which takes forever because Space Marines don't have great DPS, the Warp Spiders just decap both of the natural requisition points. What an absolute nightmare. We do see a very early master-crafted bolter purchase, which has resulted in 2 Dead Dire Avengers, possibly a 3rd model, if Choko isn't careful. He only lost 2 models down here. I think that's pretty good for the early opening engagements, especially since he managed to get a generator down without allowing the Space Marine to cap prior to setting up his weapon team. So now his generator farm is safe. In fact, not only is his farm safe, he's exerting a hell of a lot of pressure onto Ricemuncher's farm, and because Ricemuncher has chosen to purchase this mastercrafted bolter, which is 30 power, he doesn't have any shotguns. So he doesn't really have a proper way to counter the Banshees, and that's why he's going to lose his power node. Really crucial thing to note here, that Ricemuncher dropped these generators when he did. He probably didn't want to, in an ideal world, drop both generators at that moment in time. If we look at the income, if he had an extra 200 power, he would have been able to get ASM right now. But he knew that if he did not drop the generators, he would have had very minimal power income because he would have to rebuild the power node, wait for it to finish before he can then drop additional generators. So I like that play. Perhaps the choice to get Devastators was also influenced by that play. Maybe he can comment that in the comment section. because typically you would expect to go for ASM in this matchup, because the Warp Spider Exarch is innately very good against Devastators. He can teleport into them, tie them up in melee, make them useless. Whereas against ASM, as we detailed in the prior video, he's not so good. He doesn't have the supporting tools to either help the Banshees or to beat the ASM in melee himself, at least in Tier 1. So Devastator's a peculiar choice, especially since you could probably have got them out far sooner if you intended to go for them. But yeah, it was probably that he had to drop the Requisition, that delayed the ASM, and that's why he went for the Devastators. We do see the Tech Marine falling there, a little bit sloppy. He was trying to get the knockback with the Scouts and not have to retreat them, try and reclaim a bit more of that map control. But I found one thing that occurs... Wow, Choko can already be going Tier 2, he should be doing that as soon as possible. One thing that often occurs when I play Space Marines, because your early game is so relatively weak, I feel almost compelled to push my luck to try and balance things out. And quite often, at least against highly skilled players, it just results in me losing squads, or even just losing models. And if you start losing tactical models or ASM models, well, that can absolutely just crash your economy. It's a disaster. So I think generally trying to play it really safe is the better option. One thing that you have to remember whenever you're playing Space Marines is that the longer the game goes on, the more it favours you. Because your Tier 3 is the best Tier 3 in the game. And as your Tier 1 units start to scale and level up, they also start to outshine pretty much every other unit in the game. Ricemuncher has yet to even get his 3rd generator, and he is really not very close to Tier 2 either. We have to imagine that Choko's going to go for what is now becoming completely ubiquitous Falcon Rush. And it's going to be really tough to beat. I don't really know what Rice can do about it. Might at this point be worth just doubling down on the Tier 1, getting shotguns, getting the Artificer armor, and planting a bunch of mines. Maybe even getting Devastator rounds. Not Devastator rounds, Vengeance rounds on the Devastators. Just so that he has a way to deter the Falcon early on, to prevent it just rushing over and destroying his generator farm, which then would prevent him from getting to Tier 2. That said, I guess it's not really necessary because he's now getting Tier 2 and the Falcon isn't here as of yet. So he should be okay. He does have that Dev Squad to get a las cannon really quickly. Nice bleed in the Dire Avengers there. Where's the grenade? Oh shit, wow. Choko really must have took his attention off there, because he grenaded the Shuriken and then hit it with Mastercrafted Bolter, and that was it, dead. Might even potentially wipe these Dire Avengers, not quite. We do see the group teleport being purchased. I'm not really sure that's particularly worth it. I mean, it's certainly a more extreme hard counter to the Devastators, but let's face it, the Devastators right now are not the priority. It's this ranged blob that's really causing the problem. Though I guess it might be a decent purchase preemptively if he knew he was going to be going for the Falcon, so when he gets the Falcon out, the ranged blob isn't going to be so difficult to handle. Instead, it will be that Devastator with a las cannon, but he has the teleport to counter that. I would say, in order to combat that, Rice should double down on the ranged blob because it's clearly been very effective. And he should probably get something like, maybe drop down another tac squad in a drop pod, make them stern guard, and then get the rocket launcher on the other tactical marine squad. We see some nice usage of the scouts here. Getting a cheeky little decap constantly. Where's the other scout? Oh, they just had to retreat. Oh yeah, they were. I don't really know if they needed to retreat there, but okay. I think what he might be doing is, sometimes you retreat a squad simply to reposition them because your units get faster in retreat. No, he's not doing that. I was going to say he might have just retreated them to get them back here and then send them down this side again. But that's not what's happening at the moment. But the Falcon is out now, and it is going to put a lot of pressure on that gen farm. Probably wipe it because there's absolutely no AV yet. The las cannon is coming in. It's in a decent position, but the problem is this Dire Avenger squad could force them off. I was wondering if the suppression was going to frighten Choko and make him actually retreat, but apparently not. And this las cannon is totally isolated and needs to get the hell out of there. Oh, he actually cancelled the upgrade. Interesting. Very interesting. We don't see any AV yet. There's no missile launcher. Oh wow, Rice is just going straight for a Dreadnought. Okay. I think in this case, I don't know actually. I was going to say maybe Fire Dragons would be okay, but it's not ASM. Fire Dragons are actually quite good against ASM because they're short range and do really nice damage against all targets, in particular super heavy infantry and heavy infantry. I don't believe they get a bonus damage to heavy infantry, but they don't get the reduction that piercing damage units normally do. So compared to the Dire Avengers, Fire Dragons would do a lot more damage. But there's no ASM, and Fire Dragons are short range. So they could get suppressed by the Devastators and then focused down by attack blob, so maybe not. But then you don't want to go Dark Reapers because you don't really have sufficient AV at the moment. I think Choko really needs to replace his Shuriken, and he's going to have to get a Bright Lance on it. It might even be beneficial to get 2. Keeping one with the Shuriken gun itself, and then one with the... oh wow. 2 Tactical Marine models dropping there, that's pretty brutal. But keeping one Gouging Weapon team with the Shuriken Cannon and one with the Bright Lance. Because if you don't have the Shuriken, you're not going to be able to control the ranged blob. But if you don't have the Bright Lance, you're not going to have sufficient AV. A Falcon alone, even with aspect of Strength Banshees, which Choko has chosen not to get here, generally is not sufficient AV to combat a Dreadnought. We see this scout play being really annoying once again, sending them around the side, constantly decapping and keeping Rice safe in terms of the VP pressure. This is a really difficult map to beat the Eldar on because VP pressure is so difficult to handle. All these peripheries you never really explore. If someone just drops down a web brigade here or here, over in this side, even in areas like this, it just gives them so much more mobility and allows them to really contest the map very well. It's quite a large map, to be honest. And these sort of terrain pieces that prevent you from traversing over them actually just elongate the size of the map even more because you have to go all the way around. We don't see much of the range blob yet. That's Sternguard coming in now. I think that's a really good choice. Sternguard are going to be amazing here. And we see the Autarch, okay. So, yeah, presumably that's the Bright Lance, okay. So he's now doubled down a bit more on the AV. So the combination of the Bright Lance and the Falcon should be sufficient AV against the Dreadnought. It's not an overwhelming amount of AV, so it may not be enough if the Dreadnought is used well. Certainly if the Dreadnought turns into an Assault Cannon variation. Nice use of Crack Shot on the Bright Lance. Look at the massive amount of range that it gets with that ability active. But it should be enough, certainly, to prevent the Dreadnought from decimating your army in army versus army engagements. Now, the problem that I foresee here for Choko is, how does he handle the Space Marine range blob? The combination of the Tech Marine, the Sternguard, and potentially another Tactical Marine squad that could be dropped down. In fact, honestly, it's probably worthwhile at this point just to go for the Assault Cannon and the Dreadnought as well. Really double down on the ranged element, because Choko doesn't really have a counter to that. The Autarch doesn't counter ranged blobs. She's just too fragile. Not on her own, at least. She has good utility. She gets that Scorpion Shield passive ability, reducing the range damage taken by nearby allied units by 15%. That's great. And she can jump in to disrupt enemy setup teams, as well as speeding up Banshees and healing them a little bit. That's good. But the Autarch and Banshees alone do not have enough durability. Ooh, we see a nice group teleport. Where are they going? Where are they going? Oh! How did he know the Devastators are there? That's interesting. That actually might be a wipe squad. Oh, really nice use of the high-powered shot from the Mastercrafted Bolter, suppressing the Banshees temporarily so that they couldn't actually get that wipe. And we actually see a second Devastator squad. Really nice grenade as well. Oh, the Dreadnought retargeted. I think he would have got a wipe on the Banshee there with one more swing. Still, that was overall, it would seem, well, 2 Scout models lost and 1 Devastator model. Yeah, that definitely was advantageous for Rice. But the problem is he doesn't have enough AV at the moment to actually counter the Falcon. I don't really agree with the second Devastator choice. I think dropping down some tax and getting something like just Sergeant Missile Launcher, just to give him a little bit more mobile AV, would have been a better option. And now he's really behind in tech. He's probably going to be stuck in Tier 2. And I mean, that's not the worst thing. It is very possible for the Space Marine Tier 2, when fully invested, to beat pretty much any other race's Tier 3. Once those Tactical Marines and ASM start leveling up, you get a kitted out Hero, kitted out Librarian, and maybe multiple Dreadnoughts. You can beat pretty much everything, but it's tough. And this Bright Lance is being a real pain. Constantly, every time the Dreadnought commits to a fight, it gets crack shot on it, which increases its range so much. In fact, the Dreadnought's in real big trouble here if the Falcon decides to chase. I guess it cannot because of the covering fire of the Lascannon devs. But yeah, the Dreadnought's really not putting in much work at the moment. He didn't even manage to get the Emperor's Fist off in the early engagement when the Banshees came along. So I don't really think there's much point having him in melee form. I think you should probably transition to the Assault Cannon at this point, just so you can double down on the range dominance. But yeah, you need more AV as well. And Choko is very wise to the constant scout harassment on the VPs, so this time he's left his Banshees and his Autark there, which, yep, if Rice isn't paying attention, that's going to be dead scouts. He did retreat quite quickly, but it still might be dead scouts because of the Autark speed buffs. No, it doesn't look like it. She didn't actually jump to buff the Banshee speed. But that's going to be a dead... Yep, that's the dead Dreadnought. Once again, I just want to point out, crack shot on the Bright Lance. It's such a good global. It's basically a free guide. Increases the range and increases the damage of any ranged squad on demand. Very, very powerful. So Rice is trying to go tier 3. But the problem is he has no map control at this point, and he's going to lose his gen farm. And that's really not what you like. You do not want to be going into another tech with no map control and no gen farm, because you're just not going to be able to purchase anything. Ricemuncher not really keen on the strength of the Tech Marine, it would seem. I don't really feel like the Force Commander would have done too much. I suppose getting the Teleporter and the Power Fist would have allowed him to put on a lot more pressure against the Falcon. Also opens up the route of getting to tier 3 earlier, and perhaps getting the Terminator Force Commander variant. That could have been strong as well. Eldar traditionally have always struggled to deal with the Terminator Force Commander variant. But yeah, at this point, with such a deficit in VPs, as well as Choko actually being ahead in tech, I'm not entirely sure if Ricemuncher can do anything to come back here. This would look like a GG to me. Perhaps if he can somehow manage to get out a Predator and use it brilliantly, and maybe somehow kill the Falcon, then he could be in a great spot. It's certainly well known that the combination of both a Predator and Terminators is extremely difficult to beat. In fact, there's pretty much no better combination of units at a high level in the game. But the problem is that Rice doesn't even have any power. He's just got this one node. And, okay, he's buying a gen, but what actually stops Choko just pushing up and bashing them all right now? Not too much. Interesting use of the Devastators in the garrison here, just to prevent decaps. I mean, I guess that is a crucial thing for him at the moment, with only about 80 VPs left until he loses this game. But the pressure is pretty much relentless, and that's a dead scout squad. Yeah, he just doesn't have enough at this point. It's going to take too long for that Predator to come out. How much power has he got? Yeah, so he probably will get it out before the end of the game, but he's going to have so few VPs, and that all assumes that he can actually kill the Falcon, which, given the nice use of the Bright Lance, to be honest, cautious. Oh, we're seeing this again with the Dire Avengers from the previous game. I feel like they're just overextending. Like, you're bleeding models. Is it really worth it? Did you need to there? I think part of it is that Choko is a little bit too cautious with the Falcon, especially now he had the shield. Why not just move the Falcon up and put the Dire Avengers in them and move back? I don't know. And with an Avatar on the way, that pretty much seals the deal. This hypothetical Predator is going to have its work well cut out for it. Oh, I think he's gone for Terminators. Which... Terminators are great, but I don't think they're going to help you in this situation. The Falcon is the crucial unit in the Eldar composition, and Terminators, well, they don't do hard AV by default. I guess with the Cyclone Missile Launcher they could be okay, but then the Cyclone Missile Launcher is about 60 power or something extortionate like that as well, and Ricemuncher really is lacking in power at the moment. Plus, the Terminators get countered by the Seer Council. They don't do that great against the Avatar. They don't do amazing versus the Banshees and the Autark. I just don't think they're going to cut it. Still, the good thing about Terminators is they don't have a build time, so they've come out really quickly. He's actually gone for the Assault Cannon. Okay, that's a bit weird. That's very strange. Not entirely sure about that one. He just has nothing to kill the Falcon right now. Absolutely nothing. They're so tanky though, the Terminators. Just look at them. Stood right in front of the Bright Lance, which had been swapped to Scorch mode, so actually accurately hit infantry. Dire Avengers just tickling them. Falcon. Even the Falcon's tickling them, to be blunt. They are very good in this matchup. Oh, look at that. Beautiful use of the heavy gauge Death Spinner, actually stunning all of the Terminator models, and now the Banshees can absolutely annihilate them. I think they did actually use their teleport to get over here as it is. And then the Autark jumps in, buffing the damage of the Banshees even further, as well as the speed. Mastercrafted Bolter comes in to try and save them. It might do, but this is irrelevant. That's not the point. The VPs are so low. Actually killing 2 Terminator models? Absolutely brutal. Truly brutal. I mean, Rice is somehow staying in this game, playing the VP game, but I just don't know what he can do to stabilize here. There is now an Avatar on the field. All Choko has to do is hold these 2 points, and occasionally send his Warp Spiders over there to fight the Scouts, which the Warp Spider's probably going to beat, and then just decap this point, and he's done. He's reaching ridiculous levels of resources. He could nearly buy another Avatar, but he doesn't even have the population for it. I mean, kudos to Rice to actually stay in this game and not concede, but yeah, I'm not sure what his plan is here. I really feel like a Predator was needed. The Terminators are good, and they're really low risk, but they're just not good enough in this situation. I feel like you needed something high risk and make a real play with it, you know? Kill the Falcon, and just bleed all the melee infantry. A Predator certainly will not kill a Avatar very quickly, but the Avatar can't kill the Predator. Whereas the Avatar can easily tie up and deal with Terminators. But yeah, that's going to be the game there. Falcon MVP, if you ask me. I think that's basically what this came down to. Also, really nice use of the Guardian Weapon team with the Bright Lance. Very cautious, kept it in the back, never mispositioned it. And every single time, the Dreadnought even appeared to be committing to an engagement, Choko dropped that crack shot on it. Really powerful global. I like it a lot. So yeah, Choko actually wins this one. There you go. I think there were a lot of things that Rice still could have done. I do feel like the second Devastator choice was not really worth it. And as I say, Predator in tier 3. Maybe some mines would have been good, given that Choko didn't build any rangers. Perhaps not. But generally, pretty high level game. Good usage of the scouts. I like seeing the shuriken wipe down here, and the constant VP harassment. But ultimately, if you cannot protect your gen farm from the vehicle rush that you have to expect is going to come in this SM versus Eldar matchup, you're going to be in a tough spot. Because it is that transitional period from tier 1 to tier 2 where Space Marines struggle because they need power for 3 key things. Their anti-infantry upgrades, which take the form of TAC upgrades, hero upgrades, scout upgrades, and the leaders, the sergeant for the ASM and the TACs. B, their own vehicles, the Razorback and the Dreadnought, cost extremely high amounts of power, especially the Dreadnought, especially if you want it upgraded. And then also the anti-vehicle as well. If you want to get anti-vehicle as Space Marine, it's going to cost you a lot of power. 40 for the missile launcher, 20 for the melter bomb, 325, 30 if you want to buy the Devastators and get the las cannon in tier 2. It's all just quite expensive. so you need to protect your gen farm. That has to be the priority. Rice couldn't do that in this game, and that was the end of it. But there you go. We'll move on to some non-Space Marine games from here on. I must say, 2.9.2 so far, all the replays that I'm seeing from high-level players, it's just Space Marines everywhere. So I'm sorry guys, there's going to be a lot of Space Marines, so I hope that you do actually enjoy Space Marines. I know that probably most of you do. They are the most popular faction in Dawn of War 2 and the poster boys of 40k in general, but good, because there's going to be a lot of Space Marines coming your way. But that's all I have to say for this one. Hope you found this cast enjoyable, and I hope you have a good day. Torpid out.